Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Agency Exposed. How are you guys?
Morning, good Friday. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good. It's good to see you. We've taken a couple weeks off. So if you guys, subscribers, listeners, watchers, if you have wondered what happened to us.
No, we're still posting. We're
just
ahead.
Oh, we're just ahead?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I thought maybe we were, missed a week or so.
No, but, everyone needs some summer break. Brad's having some fun. He's living out his concept for the year.
Oh, yeah. I was in California for a couple of
Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was very fun. We made it kind of a family vacation. Flew into L.A. My daughter goes to college in Orange County and then traveled up to Central Coast and visited a lot of friends while we're there in L.A. and other areas of California.
Good.
San Luis Obispo.
Oh, that's a cool place.
Very cool. Yeah.
Good.
All of a sudden, everybody's
Santa
talking
Barbara.
about. There's something about that place. I don't even try and say it because I don't even know exactly how to say it. But San Luis Obispo.
San Luis Obispo.
Yeah. Okay.
Slow. They call it slow.
Slow. Okay. Yeah.
No,
but I everybody is telling me that they're going there.
Really?
Something about it. Yeah.
Oh, it's a college town.
Is it a college town?
Yeah.
It's just supposedly.
Probably you can get real estate cheaper there than here now.
Gas was more expensive.
Everybody moved here.
I think gas was more expensive there than in Los Angeles.
Oh, yeah. Gas is crazy in California.
Oh, man. Well, that's cool that you had fun there.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Nice.
Good.
And who watched the business while you were gone? Did you have to work?
Yeah, I worked a little bit. In the mornings, I would get up and do a little work, and then we'd get on our day.
Nice. Good job.
But, I mean, I hope I don't have to, on my vacation time, work all the time.
No, I was just wondering, broader than that, I'm jumping right in, but like what allows you to do that?
Do you ever, what allowed you to take off a week this summer?
I just don't get paid. I'm just kidding. I did 2 weeks 2 weeks.
Hire well.
Yeah, you
hire well.
2 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it's people and systems.
Yeah, and actually I had lunch with, I actually visited one of our clients out there. So I did a little bit of work. I stopped by one of our, in Orange County, we have a fulfillment and print company that we work with. And so I stopped by there and
I see what you did there.
Took one of my clients out to lunch and we spent a couple hours.
You wrote off the whole trip.
Solving the world's problems. And yeah.
Well, speaking of solving the world's problems, let's talk today about a topic we haven't really talked about, which I think a lot of agencies don't think that they're equipped to do or have the skills to do, but is really, really important. And that's consumer research. Understanding the mind of the target that you're trying to reach and getting to know not just what you read about them, what you think about them, or what you test online, but actually speaking with them and getting hard data.
Yeah.
Brad, I know you've done a lot of that over the years.
Yeah, and it's I've done it where it's been really expensive with larger brands, and we would do the two-way mirror and bring people in person, and we'd have somebody lead it and do these focus groups and hear firsthand, and all the clients, including the agency, would be behind the two-way mirror, and we'd be able to see what everybody was saying about campaigns, creative strategy. Just really understanding deeper what our customer thinks about us. But, it's very difficult for smaller agencies to, and even smaller clients to see that as, they know it's valuable. It's just, they see it as kind of like an expensive proposition to do that. But with technology today, I've found that there are some unique ways to be able to get to do those things. And I'm kind of excited about this because it's kind of something that I find that it's so valuable. And whenever clients go through the process, if they've never done it before, their mind's a little blown. And so, I'd like to unpack that a little bit today.
Do you think it's easier? It's because I feel like this is something, and you guys would know because you've been in it for a long time, but like this is something that was normally done, right? Like before you spend, $1 million on a marketing campaign or redoing your branding and all that kind of stuff. Back in the day, like you'd want to know what consumers think about it.
Correct.
Focus groups, all that kind of stuff.
Correct. Yeah.
But it's kind of gone away.
It has gone away a lot.
Like a lost art.
Yeah, I think that
I don't think it's gone away.
I don't know if it's gone away.
It's changed because the speed of digital.
So you think like the doing and the feedback, I get that. Like there's the feedback loop like that with digital marketing that allows you to kind of know, okay, this is resonating, this isn't.
I think so.
But
I think a lot of focus groups are
But
done.
I think there's a lot more guessing too.
Yeah.
That's just
Yes.
happening.
I think that with digital advertising and marketing is that a lot of digital marketers rely on social input to decide whether or not it's almost like it's a constant focus group where I run ads and I figure out what messages is working, A or B,
Right.
and therefore I'm getting feedback on my real time advertising.
Right.
But I think there's a greater need to hear firsthand from the voice of a customer
Absolutely.
to be able to feel. And what I tell my customers when we're on these focus groups, when we're doing the focus groups, don't just take what they say. Just listen to their ooh, ah, oh, I like that. Ah, listen to their body language. That will tell you 80% of what we're trying to get. So it's not always what they say, it's how they say it, how they react, their first gut reactions. And, listen and be open to the negative. That's the thing is that you don't sometimes you got to listen to what they don't like, not what they like about it, what they don't like, things that are stopping customers from getting over things or things ideas they're bringing to the table that you've never thought about that actually are negative towards something. Like, let's say you're developing a new brand for a customer, right? There's things that these people will tell you nobody ever saw. But as soon as they tell you that, they're like, whoa, I see it now. Yeah. Okay, this is something that we need to address.
That's good. That's good. At 5x5, we actually have a research department. So it's like 2 or 3 people, but the main gentleman who's over that has years of traditional consumer research. So we actually offer that service to clients, and it's more traditional. But let's talk about why it's important. I mean, you touched on it, and specifically in the digital marketing and agencies, those people that are listening to us. Why do you think they have to? Why do you take that extra step when you're working on your campaigns?
I take that extra step because I've been in this business since I was 17 years old. And I think only instinct can, and with not just me, the whole team, you can have the best team in the world and they're only going to hit the mark 50% of the time. It's because they they see things from a different lens. They're never going to see things from a customer's lens. And once you understand your customer and hear from them firsthand, there's a connection to them. So there's empathy that comes out of that because now you're actually talking to real people who could be a customer. They're aligned with the right demo, the right age, everything. And you're hearing firsthand their struggles and you're hearing firsthand what they like about what you're offering. Does it solve a problem? Does it create a solution for them? Does it make their life better? All of those things. And you'll find out if they really believe that or not. Now, we don't take this as gospel. We understand that, you're dealing with a select few. You're not dealing with, you're a lot of these focus groups, if they're people talking and sharing ideas and talking with a group of people, you're not going to do 1,000 people. It's just too much effort. You might do a survey of 1,000 and get some survey information, but to hear firsthand, I think there's nothing like that. And so I think that and the challenge is how do I as a small agency find these people, put together these groups? Who facilitates the thing? How is it facilitated? Which is really important as well. How you facilitate what you're trying to get from them. You have to understand what do I need to get from my consumers that I don't think I know or I may not have. I need to test against something so that I don't make a mistake. Because let's face it, if you're going to spend $1 million or $100,000 on a campaign or $1 million, why not spend 10% of that budget up understanding if 90% is spent well?
Yeah, that's really good.
I think people don't do it because it's not easy, or they assume it's not easy.
Yeah,
and what's that?
No, I was just laughing because
it isn't.
In our past conversations, so much of where we are today in the advertising and agency world is like turning knobs and flipping levers. And so it's like, the
gotta
thought
talk to
of
people?
like talking to people and asking them questions and
Coordinate
recording in it.
and figure it out and
It's-
find them.
I'm laughing because there's so much value in it, and it's how you get to know people, right? It's like how you build a relationship, and we use those words all the time in marketing. It's like you got to build a relationship with your consumer, and you got to know what they're, the psychology of what they're all about, but you won't take the time to spend an hour really and the money to really get to know them so that you can build that relationship.
But also, and probably also, like, if it was easy, if people knew maybe how to do it, that might be, I think that's a barrier too. I mean, like the idea of like, if you don't do consumer research and focus groups and those kind of things, and you're like, oh man, now I have to, a lot of customers don't ask for it. Okay. So it's something that you don't really have to do. And because you don't know necessarily how to do it, or it's not easy, you don't do it.
Yeah.
But
And I think a lot of research is done, that is typically done is like competitive research, demographic research.
A lot of that stuff.
Based on somebody else's reach that you're kind of like grabbing onto, like, hey, I bought, I got this report on why people buy airline tickets, there's a lot of companies that do those specific reports that you can buy the report. That's all good stuff. It's all good information. Don't get me wrong. But to really hear the emotional side of a customer and their exact need, and to understand this is our product and this is what we're going to deliver. This is our brand. This is our messages. This is everything. And understand that maybe what you've developed isn't you've fallen in love with as an agency, but it really doesn't resonate what you think it's going to resonate to your customer. And because you love it too much. It's your little darling.
And let's all be honest, like when you're working with a client, sometimes you're having to arbitrate between all the various personalities, opinions on that side.
Yes.
And then there was someone that coined or told me this a long time ago, but it ends up being the hippo effect, the highest paid person's opinion.
Correct.
Right?
I like that.
Okay, so like it's just like at the end of the day, it's
Correct.
like,
it's a smorgasbord. It's everybody in the kitchen having an opinion.
Jane likes orange, so it's orange.
Yeah, and the CEO is going to make a decision based on his or her gut, and it's going to be based on taking everybody. It's just gut.
It's all good.
You can't trust your gut.
And here's the thing that we try and always repeat to ourselves and to our clients is most likely you're not your customer. Right?
Correct.
Like for most people, you can't assume, like we always put ourselves in like, here's what I like and here's what,
Correct.
and you're not necessarily your target customer.
I think too, and I'd love to get into the how, because I think you've got some great tips and I know you do it regularly, and there's some actually easier ways to do it today than it used to be. But I will say this, another reason why I think it's important is having that data really, to your point, kind of levels the playing field and gets rid of opinions, desires, subjectivity, all the things that can cause, road bumps along the way, especially when it comes to creative, when it comes to the client going, I really want this and I think this is cool and everybody in my company thinks this is the way to go. You can respect that, but you can then go back with data that removes your the confrontation, and you can just present it and say, well, here's what all the consumers say. They like A, and I know you like C, but creative A is really what's going to work because they don't get C at all. And so I find that really, really helpful because it removes all the stuff that can be involved in the subjectivity, because like you said, a business owner, a creative, whatever it may be, that's their baby and they live with it. And you better not call their baby ugly, right? But at the end of the day, that the data is the data, right? The facts are the facts.
And what I want to propose is like I think the idea of doing this is for many thinks like, oh, it's another thing I have to do or learn, or it's not really worth it, or it's hard to do, or it's very expensive. And so it's an additional cost. But the truth is in most of those scenarios, it's going to save you time and money and emotional effort. We all know that feeling of like having to like be like, we know this is the wrong decision, but this guy who
really wants
writes
to do
the checks really, really wants to do it. Or, this person over here can't, the client side, how many times like there's so many differing opinions and you have to kind of arbitrate that with objectivity. And the truth is you don't know. Like you may have a great knack for marketing campaigns, design, how whatever the psychology behind writing, all those kind of things. But at the end of the day, again, you don't know either. And so this just takes it all away. It makes it easier.
There's two things about doing focus groups for an agency. Number one, it's it's good because you're right. It does allow the truth to come out and all the subjective opinions kind of leave because they can't have opinions to what people say. And so it helps to really define, but also it can be a risk because if you start doing creative, you start doing strategy and you spend a lot of time and energy and go down too far down the road and then you have a focus group and they don't particularly like it or they have negative feelings toward things and things that you find out that you're like, ooh, you might have to go back to the drawing board.
Well, you have to hold it lightly as well and be intelligent and smart about when to do it. How you do it. Yeah.
Do it earlier, do it early and often don't do it too late in the game because you might find out you've invested way too much money into stuff. And again, it's you have to look at it. It's not gospel, right? When you're interviewing and you're talking to 20 or 30 different people that are in your customer demo, don't think that everything that 20 people is it's not 1,000 or 10,000 people. It's so you have to just kind of hear things. And what I've always do too is I challenge people to listen to the same thing. So if you do a focus group let's say you do a group in New York City, and then you do another group in a different economic area like Des Moines, Iowa. You might do two separate focus groups talking about the same stuff, and you'll hear people say the exact same thing in different cities. They like almost verbatim. And it's like, you got to listen to those things when you're hearing these repetitive ideas or thoughts about what you're presenting, negative or positive. And, you got to be willing to you really got to be willing to hear that. I know I have clients sometimes what they actually, when we go through and we're trying to figure out what are we trying to learn? I always give them an opportunity to come on, and like what I'll do is I'll typically do the presentation. Typically is like an hour long, right? And currently there's tools now and we'll talk more about that on Zoom. So a lot of times we're just doing Zoom groups. So it's video and you see everyone that you've invited the focus group and they're all there. And at the end, I give the client ability, one person, a spokesperson, to come in and ask some additional questions if they missed something or wanted some clarity on something. And what I find is that the clients tend to want to sell the focus groups. They want to kind of give more clarity that they didn't have and they wouldn't have in a normal campaign so that they could sell that person on why this idea is genius. And that's not the way to go. And so it's the idea of letting go of holding on to something. I know when maybe I told this story before, but when I went to school for advertising and I had a copywriting class and my instructor was a bigwig over at JWT. What's that?
Fancy.
Yeah. Did I tell you this story?
No.
Well,
probably, but say it again. Tell it again.
He made us pull an all-nighter.
Oh, yes. I know the story.
And we presented a campaign and one of the students came up and he literally ripped her campaign in half, like in front of the class. Like it was on boards and stuff on the wall. She was doing a presentation. This is before PowerPoint. And he just did it, and he was so harsh with all of our campaigns. Like every one of them he hated, he's like, don't get too close to your creative because if you start doing that, you will never create something great.
Yeah.
And
that's
so,
really good. That's a good,
you
good
have
word.
to know that as a creator, as an agency, and you also have to know that as your client that, what you've created may be good, but it may not also be the best.
How much effort do you invest before you do the focus group?
Well, I would say anything that you could get up on its feet and be able to properly communicate to a focus group so they get the depth of what you're trying to do. That's how far you need to go. So if you're developing, let's say you're a brand and you're developing these brand ideas, right? And you're developing products, start to put products and things in front of them. And don't be afraid to actually I do a lot of stuff where it sounds a little manipulative, but I'm literally in my presentations, I ask people what they feel. I don't just put a logo up and say, hey, what do you feel about that? I'll put our logo up that we're thinking about along with other competitors' logos or even other fake logos that have different uniqueness about them. Maybe one's more feminine, one this is different colors and different things and feelings and ideas, and you get different feelings, and we talk about all of them. And I don't bring out ours as a standout. I don't go, what do you think about, I don't hone in on it. I kind of try to get their opinion and see if they navigate toward it. So it's a little bit psychology so that you're not being biased. Because the challenge is you got to take away all the bias out of it, right? You can't just say, hey, what do you think about this? Nobody knows how to deal with that. Nobody knows what to think about that. You have to be really specific. And I would say that the challenge of doing a focus group isn't today getting the people there and the right demographic in the room and get it scheduled. The challenge is, how do I put together a presentation that I get non-biased opinions and get the information that we are truly looking for?
And you have some techniques that you told me you use. One would be you put together a PowerPoint deck and it has it's very bland.
Very bland.
Right?
Yeah. I don't ever brand. Even if you're doing a PowerPoint, I'm not going to do it in my corporate brand that I'm trying to see if they like or not. I'm going to make it black and white. Right. And very, Helvetica black text on white backgrounds and very clean and non-biased. And then that way, when they do see stuff that is branded, it may feel new to them. It's not going to feel part of a presentation. I'm not doing the brand's corporate PowerPoint.
Right.
Know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I was just wondering, what are the types of things in your mind, since you've done a lot of these, that you can use focus groups to help determine? Is it, could even an agency use a focus group for themselves?
Of course. Yeah. You can use it for anything from developing a new product set to developing a brand new company, a brand new brand, to even doing website development, or UI work, and say, allow people to take a look at it and actually interact. You can get what I do a lot of times is more of a traditional, where I just want to hear from people when they respond. But you can also get folks nowadays easily to go through a website and be able to talk about what their experience was. Maybe it's a just a UI, an early UI that you're developing, and allows people to go through it and then give feedback and stuff. So there's all types of user experiences. You can send products to people and have them use it in the house, like prototypes, and send it back to you and get feedback. There's just so much you can do. And I think once you start to do a little bit, your mind starts to go, man, there's these great tools now that I can get people to do all this stuff, and it's fairly reasonable and get good feedback. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah, for sure.
As an agency, I'm sure you guys sit around and you guys go, I don't know, you guys probably have not arguments, but you're you guys are not always on the same board. You have different opinions than maybe a coworker.
I would almost say it's why people get stuck and can't move.
Yeah.
Is because they're not sure what's going to happen, right? And something like hearing from the customer gives you certainty, lets you move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did we mention specifically what tools you use?
So for that kind of stuff, I use a tool called User Interviews. We're not getting paid for this, but userinterviews.com. And you can do all types of focus groups. And the cool thing is, now I think this is only in the US. So I don't know what they have, but I think they have probably close to over 1 million users on the platform. And so you can dial in. If I want to if I want to find a female in Birmingham, Alabama who likes chocolate, you know what I mean, and has 3 kids, I can find that. And it's easy to put together your focus groups. And we do them via Zoom. It's so easy. We record, because also we get to record it. We typically have the clients on the call. They were just listening in. And again, like I said, what I typically do is I do it for an hour. I get right into it. They know why they're there. These are people who've done it before. They know why they're there. There is some pre-screening questions you can do as well, which is also great. So if you want some pre-screening questions that are automated to either qualify or disqualify somebody. So if they answer a certain way, they're qualified. And in your portal, it shows you who's qualified, who's not qualified, everything. And then they send these to people specifically in the geo area. So it would be, if I said Birmingham, Alabama, they would be in the Birmingham, Alabama area. And so they blast everyone. Here's an opportunity, because they know a certain amount of information. And then if you want to further qualify them, you can. And then you can even do things where you can interview them beforehand to make sure they are a right fit for it, or you may not, and just have them, And then what we do typically is we have a special NDA that is specific for focus groups. And what the NDA says is that and this is something they have to sign. They know this going in, because that's one of the requirements when they sign up, they're going to have to sign an NDA, very common. But it says specifically, it's not just a traditional NDA. It says any ideas that you give us in this focus group, we can use in our product. So they could give us some intellectual property of ideas, because that's what they're there for, right? They're there to help you fashion ideas and new products. So they might say something, hey, if this thing had this, we'd love it. And everybody's like, yeah, I'd love that if they had that feature in that product, and you might actually implement it. Well, guess what? The NDA says that's owned by us now. And so there's a lot of great ideas that you can get from it, not what to do, but what to do. And it really helps with that. And then this system has a whole thing to schedule the time, send them emails, reminders, send out the Zoom links.
And then you essentially execute it over Zoom.
And we execute it over Zoom.
So easy.
Yeah, it's super easy.
Because you're doing it all over the country, and like you pick in different geographical areas.
Yeah. And then if you decide that you can also do things where I just want this demographic, here's a survey, and I want to send it I want 1,000 surveys back. Right. Where, they're answering questions and you get surveys back. You can do stuff where you send them products and they send them back to you, know? And some of the stuff you have to kind of organize, yourself. Like the Zoom call, we do the Zoom call ourselves. We have to have our own Zoom account and organize that. Our NDA, we do ourselves. But it has the tools that you can send them all this stuff. And, once in a while they, you might have a no-show. We've had that before where someone cancels last minute. Like, I try to also schedule a lot of these over lunchtime from like noon to 1 so that people could dedicate an hour even if they're working. Because sometimes you need working individuals, right? Yeah. They're not just stay-at-home folks. In today's world, it may be more easier and more flexible for people to do it. But I found it very successful for those specifically. And then, there's a lot of other tools. There's some other tools. I can't think of it right now. What exactly? There's a couple of other companies that we've used for other types of stuff, not focus groups, but to really get more consumer data that we didn't have on somebody. So like we had a client who had a lot of online customers, and they had, their basic data, their name, their address, their phone numbers, and all that stuff, but they didn't really know a lot about them. And especially like, let's say you have a customer, let's say you have an e-com business, right? And you're seeing that you have certain customers that buy over and over again. Well, you want to know a little bit more about them, like, because let's say you're targeting ads for them. Like, I know they're male and I know they're where they kind of live, but I don't really know much about them. Well, there's consumer data that exists that there's companies that you can send them your data, right? And they'll come back with so much more data on them, even to the point of their political, affiliation. I mean, everything. I know how much they make. I know if more of them are married. I know if more have kids. I know if more are renting, if they own a home. I know there's so much more data that you can get. And sometimes that's super helpful if you're trying to dial in further your customer, So though it's not a focus group, there's a lot of tools that I think are really useful. And the more that you can learn about your customer, the better.
Can you give us a price range? Is it affordable for a small agency?
I think it is. I would say that if you have a customer that they're doing a project for only $10,000, it's not affordable. They wouldn't be able to do it, or if they did, they'd just do it very lightly. But I would say that, I'm trying to think of how many hours approximately it would be.
Well, let's remove the hours, but just the cost of using the service.
Yeah, so like the cost of user interviews, and I think I'm correct on this. You can go to the website and learn more. So with user interviews, you pay approximately $100 to $110 for each person who shows up at one of your focus groups.
Okay.
So, right, not that you're going to get a lot more. You're going to get a lot of people that are wanting to apply to your focus groups, and you're going to be able to choose, right? You might have 50 people who say, I want, and maybe 25 of them are qualified, but you only need 4, let's say. Then you select those 4 based on other criterias that you're able to see about the person.
And these are small groups. So like, it's like 2, 3 people, 4 people.
Yeah. When we used to do in person, we used to have maybe 7 to 8 people. I completely suggest you don't get 8 people on a Zoom call. And here's why. There will be half of them that just don't talk. There's not enough time. There's always one talker, right? Yeah. There's always one who kind of dominates, who's always has more of an opinion.
So break it up.
So what I typically say is ideally 4, 3's even good.
Yeah.
So ideally 4, 3.
So it's not that expensive. I mean, the hard
So for
cost,
$1,000, you can get like 10
hard
people.
cost is a couple $1,000.
Yeah,
and then you've got like your cost, obviously.
Correct. That's the cost for the platform. So the platform, what they do is you pay per individual for the platform for every person who actually shows up at a focus group. That's when you pay. But then what they have on their platform, they have a way that you pay them. So you put in there what the cost is. So we pay between $60 and $80 per person. That's how much they get, but they don't get it in cash. They get it they have up to 30 different like gift cards. Like one of them is Amazon. Like who doesn't buy, like most people buy from Amazon. So it's as good as money. Right. So everything, so that you can get a gift card for anything. I think you can even get a Visa gift card. I don't know, sent to you, or it's a number. It's a digital number. So they get $60 to $80 to participate. The platform gets the rest, and then the cost. That's the cost for the agency to put it together. Then the time is everything else. So.
Sure. I think that's very affordable.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not for everyone, but
no.
But definitely, if you were to look at it from the place of saying, I can get rid of a lot of headache, I can know immediately what the customer is, and I can actually go back to the client with hard data that'll help us to connect and be more successful and build that trust with the client. That's worth a couple $1,000.
And what I would suggest is, if you only have enough budget for one 4-person discussion, that's fine. That's valuable. But I would suggest if you have a product that is, let's say you have a product that you're going to sell in the United States, you have to diversify. There is social and economic differences.
More than ever
markets.
today.
More than ever. And the viewpoint and the lens is different. And you have to be very strategic about that. And I would suggest that, you do 16 to 20 people and you go around the country and you hear from different people. It's still your customer base that is your customer, but you hear from different social and economics backgrounds, because it does make a big difference. And what you do is you start to hear good and bad. Like we'll find that we have one market that is negative and one market that is super positive about the same thing. It's like one is very positive, one's very negative. But and then what you have to do is you kind of have to say, well, why are there differences? Right. And then you start to see, maybe it's because of the social economics. Maybe it's because of the backgrounds of these people. It's their lens and the way they think. And so then what you got to do is, like I said before, is you got to listen to the same things that all the focus groups say, positive or negative, without prompting, right? They'll say the same things. It's amazing. There was one thing that we showed that was I think it was a logo or something, and we had different focus groups from all around the country, and 2 of them specifically said the word, it looked creepy. Oh, no, it was an audio file. I'm sorry, it was an audio of somebody's voice. They said that voice sounds creepy. It was a voiceover. We're like, what? We never even, like, now that you say that, I guess I hear that, It does sound like a little
And was that specifically from an area of the country that maybe didn't hear
like Salem,
people
Massachusetts?
Hear people talk like that quite often, or is it just?
No, it was from 2 different social and economic areas.
Okay.
I think one was from San Diego and the other one was from the South here.
Okay.
So,
Interesting.
so it was kind of different, but they both said the same thing. And once they both kind of said it sounds like this. So they brought in something already, a philosophical something in their mind that it sounded like, and they made that reference to it. And next thing you know, it was that. None of us ever thought about that because it wasn't in our lens, but they came with a
and that's a great example. If you think that whole thing through,
Yes.
like if you hadn't done that, and and let's say you didn't do the focus group at all, you use that voiceover and you put it online, and then all of a sudden everybody started saying that is the creepiest thing I've ever heard, and it sounds like this.
Yes.
Your client would be pretty ticked off,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that, to me, that's an example of how the value of a consumer research.
And another thing, you ask focus groups, you don't ask too detailed questions. You don't say, "Hey, do you like that color green?" You don't say that. You let them say. What you say is, "What do you think about that logo?"
You don't lead them.
You don't lead them. You let them say the color's green sucks on their own, or it's great. You don't lead them. You don't say, "Hey, what do you think about that? This rim right here, this whatever." Like you point at a product or something. What do you think? What would you? You don't lead them. You just say, "Hey, this is it, and tell me about what you feel about it." That's it.
Yeah.
You kind of leave it at that, and they'll tell you how they feel. And then what you start doing is you just listen, and you hear their ums and ohs and ahs, and oh, that's cool. Oh, I like that. Oh,
Yeah.
You hear that? That's more important than the actual what they're saying. Is the way they respond.
It's a lost art.
It is a lost art, and also what it does though.
It's a valuable one. I mean, it's essentially being able to tell the future. Like, you launch a product and you're like, I hope people buy this thing.
Who doesn't want to launch a product and it's sitting in a Walmart and sit behind the
Right.
the thing, watching customers actually engage with it and look at it, and it's like you get a chance to do that early on. The cool thing is there's a lot of celebration going on too, because there's a lot of stuff you're going to do right. And that you're going to celebrate because it feels good to get feedback that's aligned with what you feel is right. And that's the fun part. And there's some areas, and it's fun to fix.
Yeah.
It's like they like that, but they didn't like that. They liked that, and they didn't like that. And again, you have to take this all with a grain of salt because you only got 20 people or 30 people or 5 people, but you still have to be a good listener.
Did you change the voiceover?
We have not. We haven't even done it. It was a pre-voiceover. It was somebody's voice that they were looking at. It was the client chose the voiceover. It wasn't us, but it was. We had different voices, female, all that stuff, and the female once the funny thing is once these focus groups say it and they all kind of go, yeah, I see that too. You start seeing it and you can't not see it anymore.
Right.
But you didn't see it before. You're completely blinded to it.
Yeah. Ruins you.
Yeah.
That's great. And I would say too, just in wrapping this up, that if you want to dip your toe in the water, one thing that I have done fairly successful in the past is if you have your client has a customer list, if you have a customer list, don't be afraid to just put together some of these survey questions on even as simple as a survey monkey or something like that, and just send it out.
Correct.
In exchange for, hey, if you'd fill this out, we're going to be giving away whatever, gift cards or whatever. And you'll be surprised at who will do that and take the time to answer 10 questions. And you can get some valuable data that way. And that's a lot more cost effective too.
And not that we're getting paid, but User Interviews does have also a tool that if you have current customers, you can send out an email that says, hey, we'd like you to participate in this focus group. And you can actually bring on into a focus group current customers who have used your products, and
Is the price the same, more or less?
I think it's less because they're not finding them now. And you can pay them through the system as well. So they get paid and you don't have to manage all that. That's the cool thing is that if I had to manage paying everyone, now some people on this platform, just so you know, do pay via PayPal. So they'll give money to a PayPal account, but you'd have to do that manually out of a corporate PayPal account into like their personal PayPal. I don't know if they have like other payment systems yet, but if you want to pay cash.
But that's all the logistics of it. I mean, the hard part is other stuff that makes it really easy. So,
and make sure you sit down with your customer before you do it and really, really understand what are we trying to learn? Yeah. Where are areas that we feel that if we get it wrong, it would be a big risk, or we would invest in something and that investment would be not good, and you really start to unpack that. And that's really where it all happens. It's doing that and doing getting the presentation, making sure that whoever's presenting isn't biased and comes at it as I'm trying to actually be unbiased and trying to find issues. Like you got to, even if it hurts a little bit. So
That's good.
Right.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
So user interviews.
Wow.
Anything else you'd recommend?
I think that's a good place to start. There's not a lot.
Zoom.
Yeah, Zoom.
Yeah, no. I mean, it's pretty simple.
And I think the cool thing is if you start small, it just gets you in the mindset, and you start thinking about other ways, and your customers love it, and it can differentiate you as an agency. And what it does is it shows it takes you from it takes you to the next level, and your customers really appreciate that, and they want to know that they're spending the money correctly.
Well, that's good. That's good. Brad, thank you for all these good tips. And
Yes.
I want to encourage everybody to go out and do some consumer research. It'll benefit you, your clients. And I would encourage everybody to also please like or review or share this podcast or this YouTube. Anything else you guys want to say before we close?
No, I mean, it just opens my eyes to it. I've known about it, but we had this conversation a few weeks ago or months ago. And man, there's so much power in it, and it's so much easier than you think. It just saves so much time. So, lost art of consumer research.
Another thing I would say is after these focus groups, send them to Descript that unpack them.
Yep.
They'll do an automatic transcribe, and then go through and actually create a really good kind of guide for your customer. Like, this is what we're hearing, and some guidance. This is what we think you should do. This is what we think we should do on this. And go over that with your customer.
Yep.
And we always, after all of our focus groups, just so you know, we always do an hour with the customer to debrief, because it's right on top of your mind. So as soon as you're done with a focus group, do an hour of debriefing with your customer. Hear from your customer what they heard, because it may be different than what you heard.
That's good.
As an agency, and kind of get their early feelings about what they're feeling. So
Yeah.
It's good. Well, thanks for this.
Yeah.
Until next time, guys.
Until next time.
Talk
Till
to you
next
later.
time.
Bye-bye.